All right, I'm here with Natasha, or did you call her Tasha?
I call her Tasha and Tasha.
Tasha, and I haven't really moved since the last video. Taylor is walking Wally right now, and in a couple minutes, Taylor's going to come in and we're going to swap. And one of you might want to go get her harness and her sweater so that when she comes in, you guys can do that pretty quickly. So basically, this is the dog's roadmap to success. So we originally called in to work with these dogs because they get a little bit freaked out when the grandkids are here. And the grandkids are what age group? Like under 7?
Oh, yeah.
2.5.
2.5.
2.5.
So that's a really unpredictable age for kids. They don't listen. You can't rationalize with them. They're going to chase the dogs around, and these dogs are not used to little kids like that to begin with. And I'm going to keep her here just for a minute, and then Mom is going to put her jacket on and her harness, and she's going to go for a walk with Taylor. And I'll talk about that in a minute. So basically, we originally we're going to work on having the grandkids come over and work with it, but the dogs, like I mentioned in the earlier video, don't even know basic commands really, and so it's hard for them to have much confidence. And so there we go. I'll go ahead and let you. There you go. No, you're fine. No, you're totally fine. I got big clown feet. It doesn't hurt me at all.
Come here.
All right. So basically, what we have to do is we have to basically get these dogs some confidence. And so the passive training that I talked about above, rewarding the dogs when they do the things that we want. Go ahead, this is really just for you guys, so it's not high production value. So basically, we wanted to start building that self-esteem and confidence. We also talked about, Taylor led this session, so I'm going to kind of summarize the things that Taylor talked about. First thing that Taylor talked about was exercise. Now, they're Dachshunds. They don't need a ton of exercise, but they do need exercise. Dogs their size probably sleep anywhere from 12 to about 14 hours a day. And so when they're asleep, they're recharging their batteries. When their batteries are recharged, they need to burn that energy. So all day long, it's kind of this up and down sort of thing. And so what we'd like to do is come up with some creative ways of exercising them. Now, one of the ways, as long as there's not problems with the backs or mobility, is show them we have a treat at the top of the stairs, touch their nose, make sure they're looking at you, then throw it to the bottom of the stairs. Now, do this with an empty stomach always. Dog's stomach could actually twist and tear, can be fatal if there's food in it because it's not attached to anything. So exercise really first and feed afterwards, or at least have an hour duration between the two. All right, so basically what we want to do is you're going to show the dog you have a treat, touch its nose, throw it to the bottom of the stairs while it's washing, make sure it's well lit. And when the dog runs to the bottom of the stairs and licks it up, you're going to come up with a funny command word. I think Taylor suggested Texas, but whatever word it is that you like. If you like going to Cabo, Hawaii, Australia, whatever it is. So a funny word that means to go down south or down the stairs. Then you show the dog I have another treat when it comes to the top of the stairs. Maybe you call it North Pole for the kids, or Canada, or Aspen. And you remember the treat always goes in the mouth first. They hear the command word immediately after. So the first time you do this with an empty stomach, you keep on throwing those treats up and down the stairs until eventually Natasha's like, are you crazy? I've been another 48 times. I'm not going down there anymore. Now for your dogs, I'm guessing it's probably going to be about the 20 to 30 range to max them out. We don't want to exercise the maximum number. We want to exercise about 50 to 75% of the maximum number multiple times a day. Now we can also set dogs up for success. If somebody texts you that they're coming over, exercising the dogs first, then letting the person letting them recover, then the person comes over is going to set them up for success. So they need at least 10 minutes after the exercise completes before they go on to the next thing. Now I would exercise them separately, because Natasha's number might be very different than Wally's number, and that's totally fine. We don't care what the number is. We just want to find out what it is so that we can figure out how much. So for them, I'm guessing it's going to be like about 2 minutes, 3 minutes each on the stairs. That 2 to 3 minutes on the stairs is equivalent to like a 15 or 20 minute walk, but you can do it in an ice storm, in your PJs, eating some peanut butter brickle, whatever you want to do. And so that's one of them. The other one now, Dachshunds, I don't know if you understand, know this, but Dachshunds and dogs with big ears, the reason they have the big ears when they walk, the ears droop like this, and it creates a vortex and it wafts the smells into their nose. These guys have a tremendous sniffer. All dogs have a great one, but these guys tremendous. So one of the things we'd like you to do is scent games. Scent games is simply, and I would do this one at a time, you hide 5 treats, maybe just around the leg of a couch, around the leg on the chair, over there and somewhere else. And so the dog has, and then every time the dog licks it up, use that passive training I talked about, say search, hunt, find, whatever the one word command is that you want. So basically, every time they lick it up, you say search. Well, then eventually you can bring the dog in the room after you put the treats on, you say search. The dog's like, oh, there are 5 treats around? And then they use their nose to find it. Sniffing is very draining on a walk for dogs, or really in any capacity. They're using a different muscle, their brain. They don't use it very often. So if we condition them to now, oh, there's one under the ledge of the step over here, there's one under the couch here. Now they're doing that, and they get this boost of self-esteem, and it exercises them. So you can Google scent games. There's a lot of books and DVDs you can buy, but just find a couple free Google, go to YouTube or find a couple videos, but just hiding them around if it's something they like. And right now one of them's going in. There we go. Go ahead and grab him because we're going to swap. There you go.
Alrighty, come here.
All right. And so what I'm going to do is when we do the swap, pick up Wally if you could. I'm going to have you sit down. We're going to see if we can do the same thing that I just did. All right. So basically, scent games is another great one that you can do. Taylor's back for Wally, and then we're going to take Natasha out or Taylor is for a little bit of a walk. Okay. So all right. So the next thing, and we got plenty of time. The next other things you can do is feeding them out of what's called a snuffle mat. Now this is equivalent to essentially a walk. And so what it is you put the mat down, it looks like tassels, and you get them on Amazon or Chewy. And if you can go ahead and grab a seat right here with me. And then if you could grab me that bag of treats over there, and just sit down first with him on your lap. We're just gonna have him get used to me, and he can sniff me a little bit, but he doesn't have to do anything. Just don't let him bolt off the couch. All right, so the snuffle mat, if we feed him out a treat, dispensing toys or a snuffle mat, well now he's having to work for his food. This is a nice way to boost his self-esteem, and it's also equivalent to essentially a walk. So if you do this twice a day for feeding out a treat, dispensing toys, well, now we get extra exercise that we kind of hide, just like we hide vegetables and food for kids. Same sort of principle. Okay, so another one that I showed you the video for that Omega Paw Treat Ball is what it's called. You get those on Amazon or Chewy. There we go. So and you see he's doing all the work. I'm not trying to pet him. When you have guests come over, tell them to ignore him. That's one of the best things they can do is ignore him completely. All right, so the Omega Paw Treat Ball is something they could also feed him with, but I would probably feed them in separate rooms for that. Now, eventually you can feed them and I would feed them one at a time if you're using the Snuffle Mat or the Omega Paw. So maybe one of them is, you're holding one of them, and the other one is doing the paw on the ground. And so the idea is now they're working for the food. It takes a little bit of extra time, but now we have a little bit of that boost of self-esteem and confidence that comes with it. Another one that we can do is having them chase a laser. Now, they seemed interested in laser. It's fun. Some dogs should not chase the laser. Some dogs, that makes them too anxious. So if they start whining, drooling, barking and getting it doesn't seem like it's healthy for them, then we might not want to do the laser for them. The last one is walking. Now, I understand that we don't walk a lot because it's Nebraska, it's January, February, it's not the best time of the year. Well, dogs burn more energy on a walk by sniffing than they do from walking. And most of us are in such a hurry to come back home, we stop them from sniffing. So when we walk, just say, I'm going to walk for 10 minutes. If I have 20 minutes, I'm going to walk this way for 10 minutes. Or let's say it's a 10-minute walk. Walk this way for 5 minutes. When you get to 5 minutes, cross the street. And so you have fresh sniffs on the way back. You might only make it 3 houses. You don't care because you're looking for duration, not completing all the way around the block. And he's trying to use his nose, and he's feeling comfortable because his guardian's sitting right here. So that's kind of a little bit of a binky or security blanket. But again, what I'm not trying to do, I'm not trying to pet him. I'm not trying to look at him. Direct eye contact would be a challenge from people he doesn't know. Now for the guardians, that's like a kiss. But for me, that would be a challenge. So I'm letting him sniff me and doing kind of whatever he wants to do. And he's laying down. That's also a good indicator of being comfortable. Okay, so exercise, let me kind of put a button on the exercise. You ideally want to do it every 2 to 4 hours. And if let's say there's always the mailman comes at 3:15, well, then we might want to get them the exercise at 3:10. So if you exercise them ahead of time, you set them up for success. And exercising before a walk can also be really helpful. So I'm going to distract you because I don't know if Taylor's come back in or you're just seeing people on the street.
He sees out the window.
Also, do you leave your door open so they can see outside? Okay. A lot of us like to do that, not this time of the year necessarily, but other times of the year, where they see it. Well, the dog sees something and barks, and what the dog's saying is, I want you to leave. And then they were just passing by your house anyways, but the dog doesn't realize that. The dog thinks they were coming to invade the house, but I barked at them, and then they left. So barking made them leave. So now I'm asking for more criteria. I'm kind of moving the treat a little bit further away. And so you see he had to get up on me, but he did it all on his own. I'm going to talk about that, I promise, in a minute. Okay, the next things we talked about were enforcing rules. Now, it takes 66 days to form a behavior pattern or a habit. And every time the dog does the wrong thing, you don't go back to 0, but you lose a lot of progress. So and breaking a rule is not a way of rewarding the dog. That's really good. We like that. Yes, buddy. And so if you want to reward your dog, pet him, give him a belly rub, pet him for sitting, or play with some toys, take him for a walk. There's a lot of things that you can do to reward the dog. Breaking rules should not be one of them. So, all right, so the first rule we usually suggest is not allowing the dogs on the furniture, but these dogs don't really get on the furniture unless the guardians put them up. So I just suggest the guardians just don't invite the dogs up. Now, if you want to cuddle with your dogs, you can go down to their level as much as you want. They just can't come up to your level. For dogs, the higher they sit, the more rank or social status they have. So sitting at the same height as us is one of the ways that we say we're peers. Sorry, buddy. I didn't want to spook you. I just didn't want you to look out there. That was good eye contact and no response. So really interested in the treats. These are called tricky trainers. I would recommend we usually leave them afterwards, but we're not going to have any because we gave them so many. You get these on Amazon. These are soft and chewy chicken liver. This is the 5-ounce bag. I would recommend you get the 14-ounce bag. The reason they work, they have no preservatives. So you see how the smell is the most important thing for dogs when it comes to food. Temperature is number 2. Taste is a distant third. So what you want to do is if you get these treats, every time that you open the bag, fold it over, burp all the air out, and then zip it. Otherwise, it'll be hard as nuts and they won't work as well the next time you go to use them. All right, so looks like your confidence is much better. That walk really helped. Okay, so all right, so getting back to rules. When the dogs do have a sit, we would want them not to. There's a bully stick. I think it went in the crack. If they want to go outside, go to the door once they have a sit and tell the dog to sit one time. Tell the dog, don't ask the dog. If the dog, you find it? Oh, there we go. If the dog does not sit within 3 seconds, this is not one of my treats. This has been waiting for you for a little while, buddy. If it doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away from the door and I sit down and I wait 1 minute. After 1 minute, it looks like, oh, actually, they're both right here. Never mind. I don't know what it went under there. Maybe nothing. Maybe I'm just seeing things. All right. So what I do is I go to the door, and if the dog doesn't sit within 3 seconds, I walk away. I sit nearby, and I sit and I ignore the dog, and I wait. When they get done, after 1 minute, I wait for 1 minute. After 1 minute, I go back to the door, command the dog to sit. If it doesn't sit this time, I wait for 2 minutes. Next time I sit down for 4 minutes, and then for 8 minutes. I keep double length of time. But boy, as soon as that butt hits the ground, the door flies open. So this tells the dog that sitting is a good way to get out of the door. Now, I'm going to describe a different version of this for the kennel. And I'm also going to share a kennel trip. I want to ask Taylor how it went, but I'm going to do that after this video. But I'm guessing it did good. You can go ahead and close the door and come on in. And so basically, you can do a version of this for the kennel. So let's talk about that. So because they don't know sit right now, it's going to be harder to get them to sit. So what I would do is use your kennels. So now, right now, Wally does not like going in the kennel. Is that right?
Right.
Wally he lays down and they pick him up and put him in the kennel.
Yeah.
I call it turtling up. They have
That's what he does.
different word
He
for
turtles.
it. Okay. So if we force the dog to go in there, even if we're just picking him up and putting him in there, he's saying everything he can say that I don't want to go in here. What we want to do is create a longing. Is it a plastic kennel or a wire kennel?
Plastic.
Okay.
Plastic.
So plastic kennels are a little bit different, but they still work. What I would do is get these high value treats before a meal. And you want to practice this at times where he's not going to go in the kennel. So show him that you have a treat, and then put it through the gate of the kennel, which is closed. And then show him you have another treat. And keep doing this for about 5 or 10 treats until he's kind of like going over there, like pawing at the kennel. We want him to want to go in there. Now he's going to go over there, probably won't go, and you open the door, probably won't go in there. So you might have to, if this is the kennel, this is the edge of the kennel, and this is the floor, and the kennel goes here, you might actually have to put it up, dotted on the floor and do that dotted line like I showed you, and he gets closer to it and then walks away. In a future trip, Taylor or myself might do something called click for looks. If you can't achieve this, we don't want to force him as much as possible. Sometimes you have to put them in the kennel because they do have accents. What I would actually recommend probably is getting an X pen. You can get those on Amazon. It's eight foldable panels of basically a wall of fence that you can set up there or wherever you want. Make sure that if you set it up somewhere where if they have accents, it's okay, but make sure that they have something very soft, obviously, to lay on. That tile wouldn't be a bad place to put it, but then they need something to sit on softly.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically if you put him in there instead of the kennel, now we can help him practice going in the kennel only for positives as opposed to negatives. So let's say that we've achieved this and he can go in the kennel, fine. You can go ahead and put him right up here. Once he can go in the kennel, fine. Well, the next step is we want to show him that if you want to get out of the kennel, sitting is the best way to get out of the kennel. So what we would do is go to the kennel and just sit in front of the kennel. Oh, you want one of those? You can have one of those, buddy, for sure. Absolutely. All right, so we wait for him to sit. Only when he sits do you open the door to let him out of the kennel. And so just sit and look at both kennels. I don't want to look right now because it's going to spook them. But if they're side by side, you can see both kennels. Just wait and don't tell them to sit. Well, right now they don't know it anyways.
Yeah.
But as soon as they sit, go and open that door's kennel. So after a while, they're like, so when I sit, that means I get out of the kennel? Oh, well, I'll just start sitting right away. Now it'll take a bunch of repetitions before they figure this out. But eventually then the dog will sit as its way of saying, I'd like to leave the kennel, please. And once you can get to that point, then Taylor can show you how we can open the door and have them stay sit while the door is open. So Taylor, I'm going to ask to kind of reference this video afterwards and kind of make a list of the things that we want to work on later on. We'll probably talk about it after the session, come up with a game plan. Okay, so other rules, I just wouldn't let them in the kitchen when you're cooking. What you can do is walk directly towards them. And establish a boundary. So whatever the line is, you might want to put painter's tape or something down so you know exactly where that line is. So when you go in the kitchen, what we usually like to do is teach the dog to leave it first. So let's say that this is where the border is. The dog's not supposed to be on this side. This is the kitchen. This is the hallway. I would go in here with the dog, and one dog at a time, show the dog I have a treat, throw the treat about 2 feet outside the kitchen. When the dog walks out and gets it and licks it up, say the word out. So we're creating a command word. Out means to leave the kitchen. Right now when we tell them to leave the kitchen, they're like, well, but you're going to drop food. I'm going to lose out. I'm losing. It's a punishment. Now it's a reward. I leave the kitchen, I get a treat? Sure. So I do it twice. I usually do this for every area of the house that we want to make them leave. I throw 2 out, and every time, one at a time, the dog goes, gets it out, it comes back, and throw another one. We're putting in context. Leaving the room is a good thing. Here's the command word for it, and it's rewardable. So the first thing we do is when we walk in, and if this is the kitchen and this is outside the kitchen, I walk and across the threshold, the dog with me. I show the dog I have a treat. I throw it. The dog walks outside to get it. And I would do this one dog at a time. Then if the dog crosses this threshold, you march directly at the dog. Keep marching at the dog, but stop at this point. So the dog understands once I cross one pinky toe in here, they march towards me and kind of move quickly towards them. Don't, if you go too slowly or you stop, they won't move backwards. This is one of the ways that dogs learn from each other. So the dog's going to probe, like Taylor talked about earlier. They're going to, can I cross the threshold here, 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 and you consistently. So that way, eventually you can teach the dogs to stay out of the kitchen. Now that might be a little bit advanced for you guys, but that's something we can work on later on. And I have videos I can share with you once we get their confidence up a little bit better. The other thing I'd like to have you eat before you feed them. That way you have dominion over the food. And then basically when you go put the food down, are they like going to get the food right away as soon as your arm is moving towards the floor? Mm-hmm. So do operant conditioning for that. And I would do it one at a time. So maybe now they're not going to know what the snuffle mat is at first. So maybe it's the Omega Pot treat ball. We'll use that one as a better example. So you fill it up and the dog knows what it is now. You start putting it down the floor. And as soon as they start moving towards you, you pull it back up. So eventually this will be something you want them to sit. You sit. As soon as they sit, the process starts going down. As soon as they get excited and get up, the process stops. So the dog learns, I have to stay seated for this to get all the way down the ground. This also might be a little bit more advanced than what your dogs can do right now. So if any of these things, you're frustrated, you're not sure about them, ask Taylor when she comes back or call me personally. You have my personal cell phone number. We don't want to push it. If they have a bad experience with something, they really won't want to do that again. But I mean, he was barking at me like crazy, and they are tooting a little bit. Might be the richness of our treats. We gave him a plethora of treats. But you can see now, he's laying on top of me. I don't have to hold him, and he's content. You wanted this one too?
Of course he does.
It's like, yes, of course I do. And so, but now he's practicing being on me, relaxed and completely content. Okay, so for the treats, what I'd like you to do is, I'm guessing they act like this for us, for everybody that comes over, right? Just about, unless it's somebody that they know. Yeah. So what you could do is that trail of treats. So what you want to do is have the person sitting on the floor, and then basically have those high value treats. So you give them those treats, make sure the treats are warm, and just have them lay on the sit on the floor. Now the ideal situation would actually be kind of sideways. So if you could maybe move your ottoman out so it's facing your TV, have them sit on the floor with their back to the ottoman, and have the dogs over here. It's easier for dogs to approach us from the side than the front. And so basically the person does the trail of treats here, and then we see how much confidence the dog has, how close it'll get. And then we don't mess with the ones the dog doesn't get. We just keep on adding them past that. And eventually you'll see the dog go past one mark, past another mark, eventually pat all the way. And when you see him coming close and leaning, and not leaning and lingering, then you can hold your hand out to the side with the treat.
Do you need the clicker?
You can use the clicker for this. I was just trying to kind of combine it. The clicker is, that's what we do for priming the clicker. We throw a treat on the ground. And actually for you, I'll just leave this clicker with you. I'll get another one. And so what I want you to do is grab 10 treats, or a piece of kibble work too if they like their kibble. Throw it on a piece on the ground. When each dog licks it up, click. The click means that you just did exactly what I wanted. Now, right now, we're creating an association. So we can do this is only a couple times, maybe about 10 treats per dog, maybe 3 to 5 times. You know, an hour, a couple hours apart. Maybe do it a couple times today, do it a couple times tomorrow. So eventually the click means what you wanted. Now for clicker training, then Taylor, when she comes back to do training, when the dog sits, the butt hits the ground, we would click, then we would put the treat in the mouth, and then say the word sit. So the click means you just did what I wanted. I'm going to get a treat in your mouth as fast as I can. So it's almost a placeholder. Think about it a little bit. And it helps. So if you're sitting here watching TV and one of them sits over there and you have some treats, you click and then throw a treat. And when the dog licks it up, you could say sit. Now that's not ideal because they're probably going to be out of a sit for that. It would be more ideal if you sit in front of them and then hold the treat up for their nose, kind of like this. As their head goes up, their butt gets down. When their butt goes down, pop a click and then pop the treat in their mouth. And that's something Taylor might have to come back and help you with.
She's already doing it.
All right, perfect. So that just like Taylor's doing right there.
And do you say sit?
And she says sit right there. Yeah. Now you could use a clicker for this, and if once your dogs know the clicker, it's great, but the clicker is further away, and that's why Taylor's not using it. So, but she's luring the dog into a sit. So this is why she's a behavior analyst now, because she's really good. And so when Taylor comes back, we'll set it up for maybe early part, mid-time of next week sometime when it works for your schedules, and get her to help doing this. But once they start knowing skills, then they can feel better and more confident. So for the trail of treats, that's something that you can just do. And if the dog doesn't get all the way to the person, that's fine. The person doesn't take treats out of their hand, that's fine. Now those visits would be great for neighbors if you're friends with neighbors, because it can be a short visit. You don't feel bad about having them come to your house. They just come over. Hey Fred, can you come over and just lay on the floor and throw treats at my dog? Sure. Okay, and I'll buy you a beer. Or I'll give you a couple of beers. We'll watch the whatever the basketball game. And so now the dog kind of has. Well, the person came over. We were here for several hours. Well, Fred's only here for 10 minutes. And all these great treats. Every time I approach Fred, good things happen. And then Fred didn't try to pet me. He didn't look at me. He didn't talk to me. And then he left. And then I got to relax. And then next time he'll probably come closer to Fred and eventually get to this point. Now, the last little thing I'm going to do once we get done with this video is we're going to do what's called I'm going to show you how to do something called a conditioned emotional response, or what's referred to as a CER. This almost is bypassing the dog's brain. I did this when I had my puppy Quest. I wanted him to meet me. He was from Portland, Maine. And so I can't go stop in and say hi when he's a puppy. So I mowed the lawn and I was topless. Don't imagine, it'll scare you. But I was, when I wiped down, took a little hand towel, wiped all the sweat off me, and not necessarily sweat, just my scent. Then I put it in a Ziploc bag. I shipped it to Linda, my dog breeder, or the Quest breeder, and with a bag of these treats. And I said, what I want you to do is this CER, what I'm going to describe right now. When I went to meet Quest, all 12 Dalmatians jumped up on me. They were licking me for a second, and they all ran down to go get some food. Quest stayed. He knew who I was because he was associating the scent with the presence and with the treats. So you're going to do this kind of in an akimbo motion. Can you think you can have this by yourself without me holding it? It's like, am I a wiener dog or what? So you're going to have both hands behind your back. And I'm going to kind of, it's not going to be the best example because I think I'll spook him when I do it. So you're going to basically have the towel in this hand and a treat in this hand, and do not switch them. We want to handle the towel as little as possible because we want as much as Taylor's scent on it possible. This is what I do as a dog behaviorist, is I try to break things down into individual scents. In this case, the smell, which is the most important thing for the dog. So have one of the dogs only. Pull your hand out, put that treat, the towel in front of the nose. When the dog sniffs it, pull it away, give it a treat, and say the word Taylor. Pull it away, pull your treat hand behind, and so you should have a whole bunch of treats in your hand. And then sniff again, pull it away, Taylor. And do this for about 10 to 15 treats. And then switch dogs. And then make sure that you don't handle it, you put it back in the Ziploc bag.
Okay.
And don't just do it here. Dogs don't generalize. They need to do it in different parts of your house. And so do it here, do it sitting over there, do it in the kitchen, the dining room, all over the place. And eventually get to the point where the smell equals Taylor. You can do this with your grandkids.
Yes.
So have the parents take a towel.
just thinking that.
Exactly. And so I do this a lot with dogs that are fearful of kids or different things. So they get to meet the kids, have this positive association without the presence of the kids. We're not doing the sight of the kids, the sound of the kids, the movement of the kids. Just one thing. I know, buddy, I'm talking a lot, but I promise this is all good stuff. It's going to help you. So basically, and I would try to limit the dog's access to the kids. So if they're going to come over to visit, maybe take the dogs out for those walks. Give them set up the X pen in the basement. And give them bully sticks. They love the bully bites. And go to the green spot. What I would actually recommend, the bully bites are great, but that's a one-time. My dogs also like a cow's kneecap, and the card is right there on the, and that card will get you $5 off whatever you want to buy at the green spot. So it's 72nd and Pacific. It's a great store. It's dog friendly. I wouldn't probably take them. Well, you could take them. They might do okay there. And then get them kneecaps, tracheas, no hides. Don't give them raw hides. Raw hides are not very good for dogs. Get a bag of these bully bites. Get the low odor ones. The low odor ones will be more expensive, but your nose will thank you for them. They already have a little gas. And so now you can give them these little bully bites. When the grandkids are over, they go downstairs and they get a kneecap each, and they're in the X Pen. And what you can do is go to like Mrs. B's. The X Pen are about $35-$40 on Amazon. And so you go to Mrs. B's or a place that has vinyl flooring. If you have carpet in the basement, just say, I need a little 4x4 piece of, do you have a remnant piece? We'll sell you a remnant piece for nothing. Lay it on top of the carpet, put the X Pen on top of it. It's got these walls, the dog, and fill it full of bully bites and so a bunch of their toys. And then they go in there, they get to chew on stuff and having a good old time while the grandkids are up here. That way they're distracted, they were exercised first, they don't have to interact with them, and they're just getting to meet their set. Now, I would like to have, like I said, Taylor come by and start working with him on sit, down. Now, the video above on this write-up on the website is going to help you guys get a jump start on that thing. But now we're buddies, huh? And the nice thing is once he gets more confident, and I think this walk probably sealed the deal with Taylor, when she comes back, it might be a little bit, we might have a couple steps back. That's why I'd like to do it within 7 days max, because otherwise they'll kind of forget this. But after a while, Taylor will be one of their favorite people. Taylor's almost everybody's favorite people. But this way, Taylor can start working on some of these other things and teach them some other commands that'll help. And then we can start, and then I can come back eventually. And when we do want to bring the grandkids over, do something I call click for looks, where now we're going to do the sight of the grandkids and some other things. Yeah, I know where you want to get down. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we want to cover. That's pretty much it for now. I'd like Taylor to also go over petting with a purpose with you again once they know how to sit. I'm not going to go through it here. I have videos for that, and I'm happy to share it with you, but I think right now it's going to be overloading for you. A couple other little tips. Anything your dog is doing when you pet is what you're reinforcing. That's why we do passive training. But this also applies to unbalanced states of mind, like fear or stress. If you pet a fearful dog, you'll make him more fearful. If you know he's stressed out, you can lay your hand on him. They do associate touch with affection. But as soon as you start petting, you're going to make it worse. Best thing to do is increase the distance between him and whatever it is, sometimes out of eyesight. Now remember, anything your dog does in your presence that you don't disagree with has your seal of approval. So not saying no is pretty much the same thing as saying yes. The only caveat to that is if the dog's trying to get my attention by barking or offering unwanted behavior, that I'll ignore. But if he starts barking at the window and he barks and you listen to it for 5 minutes, you're like, enough, stop. Well, so you don't like my 97th bark? If you don't want barking, always be the second bark, third bark, however many. You can bark it 3 times. After 3 times, I'm going to stand up and walk over there. And don't do it with any verbalization. Just walk over there, put your back to whatever he's barking at, and walk directly at that dog until the dog gets maybe off the steps in here. Increasing the distance is a great way to do it. But if you yell or chastise, that can be rewarding and validating, and also that can also set him off a little bit more. Look, she's barking too. Now, I'd also like to use watchwords of vocabulary. The Guardians are going to make a list of the official command words. Make sure that they are fun command words, at least most of them. Sit and come should be just sit and come. But lay down, I say crash or chill. One of our clients is a baseball fan. They call it slide. So a word for eating their food, and they should have a separate word each for eating their food. Name all of your individual toys, and come up with a list of all the terms you want to do, and then you say vocabulary. If I'm saying come here, they say vocabulary. I'm like, oh yes, the word is come. We don't realize we talk to dogs as if they speak English. Come here, come over here boy, here girl, dog's name, dog's nickname, whistle. Now I've got a list for all these different words out of the 2,000, 11,000 words we say as humans. So if we say vocabulary, that means you're saying the wrong word. Stop, think about the vocabulary words, and just say just that word. I also say repeat or rerun if we're saying too many, if we're repeating a word. And if we say too many words, I say scrabble. Oh, what a good dog, he sat down. Scrabble, sit. Make sense? Now, once the dogs know the command words, I want you to say the command words twice. So let's say I told him to sit. I'm telling him what to do, what I refer to as the command stage. When he sits, I'm going to pet him under his chin and say the word sit again. Not good sit, not good dog, not good boy, just sit and not sit. So now we're linking the two things together. So think of every time you're petting him as him doing a mini job. Sit, I'm paying you for the sit. Down, I'm paying you, and I wouldn't say down because they get confused when we say get down. Yes. I'm trying to think. Yeah, chill or crash or whatever it is. And so make those words for command words for eating. And I also, Taylor says, I think Merlot when her dog drinks water. So don't give your dog Merlot or alcohol. It's not good for dogs. But if every time they drink, you say Heineken or PBR or whatever, Tony Sabawa would like, well, then, that kind of makes you chuckle. Tony comes over, Tony's like, that's my beer. Well, now the dogs see that levity. And if you can bring in that levity, that really makes a big difference. Remember, they learn through association, repetition, and good timing. You have 3 seconds. So if your dog gets stressed, you get stressed because somebody came around you, you're worried the dog's going to nip the children. The dog sees that you're stressed and thinks the child caused it when it's actually the dog's that's causing it. So it gets you a little bit of trouble. All right. Now, if you have any questions, please call or text me. Text me a picture of them first. Text is the fastest way to reach me. And you're going to have to be able to ask Taylor if she has any questions as well. But we're here for you. I don't care if it's 7 years after the fact. Don't give us a good review now and then 2 years later say, well, now they reverted. Call us. We're here to help you. We have all these videos and stuff to help you with it. All right. Well, can you actually go over and pick him up and bring him over here for me?
Sure.
I'd have Tayller do it, but we want to make sure that whenever we're practicing things, always end it on good ones. And put him right over here if you could.
All right. You want that? Leash?
No, right here. Yeah, we're gonna sum this up. All right, perfect. Well, this is Wally, and this is Natasha, and I'm David. Taylor's over there. She did all the work in this session. I'm just summarizing it. This is the dog's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog, only sometimes you mean it.